Model bias, the risk nobody wants to own. Here's a sentence I want you to distrust on sight forever, starting now. It's just an algorithm. It can't be biased. It's math. I have heard variations of that sentence from people who should genuinely know better. And every single time, it's wrong. And every single time, it's wrong in a way that hurts somebody who never got a vote in the decision. Bias in artificial intelligence isn't the system malfunctioning. That's the part people keep failing to understand. It's the system working exactly as trained, on data that already contained the prejudice, and reproducing it back at scale, with a straight face and considerably more confidence than any single biased human ever had. A biased manager has a bad day and hires unfairly once. A biased model does it identically, every time, for every applicant, forever, until somebody notices and makes them stop. So let's talk about 4 times somebody noticed. Real cases, real numbers. No hypothetical company this time, because we don't need one. The real world already ran this experiment for us, repeatedly, on actual people. Case 1, criminal justice. In the United States, a tool called COMPAS was used across courtrooms to score defendants on their likelihood of reoffending. A score judges used to help decide bail, sentencing, and parole. In 2016, journalists at ProPublica pulled the records on over 7,000 defendants and checked the tool's actual performance against what really happened next. Black defendants who did not go on to reoffend were nearly twice as likely to be incorrectly flagged as high risk compared to white defendants in the identical situation. 44.9% against 23.5%. That's not a rounding error. That's tens of thousands of people carrying a wrong, computer-generated label into a room where a judge is deciding their freedom. Company that built it disputed the analysis. And to be fair to the argument, there's a genuine and unresolved statistical debate buried in there about what fair even means when you're choosing between different kinds of error. I'll give you that much nuance. I will not give you the conclusion that nobody should have checked in the first place. Case 2, and this one has a face attached to it, which makes it considerably harder to wave away with statistics. A researcher named Buolamwini, working at a lab full of very impressive facial recognition demonstrations, found that the system in front of her would not detect her own face, not slowly, not with lower confidence. It simply didn't see her on a hunch. She put on a plain white mask. The system found a face immediately. She turned this into a proper study, testing commercial facial recognition systems from major technology companies, and found error rates for darker-skinned women reaching as high as 34.7%. For lighter-skinned men, the error rate was 0.8%, not 8%, 0.8. That gap is not a technical footnote. That's a system that was tested, approved, and shipped by people for whom it happened to work perfectly, sold as if it worked perfectly for everyone. Case 3, and this is the one that should genuinely unsettle you, because it wasn't about photographs or court dates. It was about who gets a nurse assigned to help manage a serious illness. A widely used healthcare algorithm in America was designed to flag which patients needed extra clinical support. Researchers publishing in the journal Science in 2019 found the tool had quietly decided that healthcare cost was a good stand-in for how sick somebody actually was.
Sounds reasonable until you remember that Black patients have historically had less money spent on their care for the exact same level of illness, for reasons that have nothing to do with how sick they were and everything to do with access and discrimination. So the algorithm looked at lower historical spending and concluded incorrectly that those patients must be healthier. Under the biased version, only 17.7% of the patients flagged for extra help were Black. Correct, the bias. And that number jumps to 46.5%. The algorithm wasn't a little bit off. It was cutting the number of Black patients getting extra support by more than half, silently for years, inside a system built by people who almost certainly never intended any of it. Case 4. Because I want you to understand, this is not a history lesson about clunky old systems from a decade ago. This is happening right now, inside the shiny new generative tools everyone's currently racing to plug into everything.
In 23, journalists ran more than 5,000 images through a popular image-generating model, asking for pictures of people in different jobs and different scenarios. High-paying professions came back dominated by lighter-skinned subjects. Low-paying service roles skewed dramatically darker. Most occupations defaulted to men, except for the traditionally lower-paid ones. And when the prompts touched on crime, the racial and religious stereotyping got worse, not better. Researchers' actual conclusions should be sitting uncomfortably with every executive currently bragging about their new artificial intelligence rollout. The generated images were more skewed than the real-world statistics they were supposedly modeling. Tool didn't just reflect society's bias back at us, it exaggerated it. 4 different decades of technology, if we're generous, 4 completely different industries. 1 identical root cause. Every single time, historical data containing historical prejudice, fed into a system with no built-in mechanism for noticing, treated as neutral because it came out of a computer instead of a person's mouth. This is precisely why an impact assessment isn't decoration. It's the one part of the process specifically designed to ask who does this hurt if it works exactly as intended before you've already shipped a tool that quietly halves the number of sick patients getting help. It's why data governance controls exist, so somebody is actually responsible for knowing where your training data came from and what prejudice it might be carrying, instead of it being everybody's job and therefore nobody's. None of the 4 cases I just gave you needed a hacker. None of them needed malice. Every single one needed exactly one missing thing. Somebody with the authority and the obligation to check before go live, and a standard that makes skipping that check a documented failure rather than an understandable oversight. I'm not a certified lead auditor. I'm a bloke who's tired of hearing the data doesn't lie from people who have never once asked where the data came from. Data doesn't lie. It also doesn't tell the truth. It tells you exactly what happened before, prejudice included, and if you don't go looking for that prejudice on purpose, it will happily replicate itself at a scale no single biased individual could ever have managed alone. So here's the dare, and I want you to actually do this one. Before Friday, find one artificial intelligence system your organization uses to make a decision about a real person, hiring, lending, screening, scoring, anything, and ask a straight question. Has anyone actually checked its outcomes, broken down by group, against reality? Not whether it was accurate overall, whether it was accurate for everyone. If the honest answer is nobody's ever looked, you don't currently have a fair system. You have an unexamined one, and those are not the same thing, no matter how confident it sounds when it's wrong.